for some beer. This is all just a desperate cry for attention. Oh God, we're sucking right now.
I want to be able to grow more dicks. Dude, this is consensual.
I am Frank.
Yeah, psychic powers like Grace.
So I personally think that light banter is not that important.
No, we don't need a light banner.
Who needs light banner?
People care about the movies.
People come here for a serious critique and walkthrough of films, and that's what we're going to give to them.
Exactly.
Can't compromise that with light-hearted small talk.
Are you one of those people who's constantly asking, what's happening right now during the movie? Well, this podcast is for you.
Yeah, we're your guys.
Don't ever do that while the movie's playing, though. Almost always the answer is, I also don't know what's happening. That's how the filmmaker designed it.
The only thing worse is when somebody's seen the movie and they give away plot points like seconds in advance sometimes. Which is, I mean, not many people do that because that's a total chud move, but...
Unforgivable. But we're going to give you all the plot points.
We are, because that's what we do. Welcome back, guys. I am Andrew.
I am Braden, and this is Far Out Flicks.
Ooh.
Dun, dun, dun.
Thank you guys for being patient with us as we've taken a little break after releasing episode 10.
This will be episode 13, though.
This is, we are currently... It's a good point, but we put the production on pause for 2 weeks. Our little summer vacation from this after successfully recording and distributing to you guys 10 glorious episodes.
Yep, thanks for sticking it out with us.
Yeah, so hopefully we didn't lose your attention span entirely in the 2 weeks. I like to think maybe it's like, you hold out a little bit, play hard to get.
I hope so. Listeners. Leave them wanting more. Always leave them wanting more.
Yeah, that's like the whole point of the cliffhanger.
So, today's movie is...
to get right into it.
Extremely far out. But it's mainstream a little bit.
It is, and it's a different kind of far out for sure. Cinematography choices and like touch, and there's a lot about it far out. The concept of it, it's a very quirky, interesting slice of life. Quirky,
sure.
Wink, wink, if that gives you any hints, at least to the director that we're going with.
Quirky and hip.
This week, we are doing The Life Aquatic. Yes.
I love this fucking movie.
I do too. I went through a weird phase in high school. Or not weird. I was awesome. But I went through a phase when I first started really getting into film where maybe this was like really one of the first kind of like indie, well, I say indie, had a massive budget, but indie-esque films that like I'd seen and it had a huge impact.
And Wes Anderson.
Well, I bought it on DVD and I probably saw it like 15 times when I was a kid. Or teenager.
Absolutely. This and the Royal Tenenbaums.
Oh, yeah. But that was like always on Comedy Central.
The Royal Tenenbaums?
I feel like I saw it like 3 or 4 times on Comedy Central.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. I don't think of it as a comedy, but I mean, it has its moments, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, is this a comedy? Is The Life Aquatic a comedy?
Wes Anderson, he hits the full spectrum of human emotion, I think.
Yeah, he does. And that's kind of what makes his films beautiful.
But right? It all has like this kind of detached, aloof tone, I would say.
And so much of like the settings, and really the cinematography of it's almost surreal's not the right word, but it's so picturesque. It's almost surreal.
Yes, and I'll go ahead and say about The Life Aquatic, all the major plot points of like adventure action movie are there, but the way they play out is in this self-aware way that that it doesn't actually matter.
Yeah.
Like when there's a big shootout near the end or whatever, and you can just tell they're not even like, they don't even look like they're trying to shoot each other.
It has fun with itself.
Yes, exactly.
Kind of like Evil Dead.
Sure.
but very different genres. Some things to talk, some introductory points about the film for those of you who somehow have never heard of this movie. The lead roles, and there's pretty much everybody's a main character in
All-star cast.
All-star cast. But it stars Bill Murray, who is just always wonderful.
Of course, personal hero.
Yeah.
I think probably most people feel that way.
And a frequent Wes Anderson, the director. Again, if you somehow didn't know that going into this, Wes Anderson regular, as is many members of the cast, as you kind of see throughout all of his films. And something to just say about, I mean, we already said it, but Wes Anderson is always able to just like book the most unbelievable talent for his films.
I love Wes Anderson's films. I mean, they kind of...
What's your favorite?
What's my favorite? I think The Life Aquatic is probably my favorite one, followed by The Royal Tenenbaums. And then I also like Rushmore a lot.
I'd say it's my favorite one, and then second favorite, I didn't like it the first time I saw it, actually, but the Darjeeling Limited.
I like that one.
It grew on me tremendously.
That one's great.
As
That
time
one's
went
great.
on.
I should rewatch that one.
Totally worth a revisit. But so Bill Murray, Owen Wilson, who, along with Owen Wilson's career, got launched by Wes Anderson, right, with Bottle Rocket.
Yes, actually, both the Wilson brothers.
Correct. And Owen Wilson also was a frequent writing partner of Wes Anderson's pretty much up until this film, at what point his acting career had launched to a scale that like he just couldn't devote the same amount of time to helping write it. But Owen Wilson, Angelica Houston, Willem Dafoe, Jeff Goldblum.
Jeff Goldblum, Kate Blanchett.
Additionally, Saul George.
Oh yeah, Seu Jorge.
Seu George. We rehearsed how to pronounce this. A shout out again to my friend Matt, who speaks Portuguese and coached us through this. But so you do it. I'm gonna fuck it up again.
Seu Jorge.
There we go. Bingo.
Famous Brazilian singer who, in this movie, he's a character, but he also was a big contributor to the soundtrack. And the concept is that in most scenes, this guy will be in the background playing guitar, doing David Bowie covers, but in Portuguese.
Acoustic.
Acoustic.
Correct. And that does make a huge portion of the soundtrack,
and it is phenomenally good, and it definitely creates a tone to the whole film that is one of a kind.
Yeah. The soundtrack is also just absolutely phenomenal, and it has quite a bit of David Bowie.
Yes, it does. And the soundtrack was created by this guy, Mark Mothersbaugh, originally of the band Devo.
Whip it.
If you don't know Devo, check them out. They're a very cool kind of new wave band from the 80s. And Mark Mothersbaugh has gone on to have this very awesome career of composing scores for films. And I think he did all of Wes Anderson's films.
Yep.
And he also has done hundreds of movie scores.
Which is a phenomenal amount of work to turn out.
They're amazing. They're really, really good.
The soundtrack heavily features rock in between the 60s and 80s. I think it is a perfectly scored film.
I had this soundtrack on CD, and then there's also the companion one, which is Seu Jorge sings David Bowie from the movie Life Aquatic, which is only him. So there's actually two different soundtracks.
I didn't know that existed.
I was spinning both of those quite a lot. In fact, the Seu Jorge songs are not on the soundtrack, the official soundtrack.
Really?
Maybe like one is, but they're not on there.
That's a shame. 'Cause he does it, again, it's pretty much it is all Bowie songs.
It's all Bowie songs and maybe one original. Timazisu.
But they are absolutely...
It's so
done.
good.
So good. So to not get lost in the weeds, because there's so much trivia to talk about.
There's a lot of weeds.
There are. I guess one final note before we move on. The film lost money, which blew my mind. It had a $50 million budget and only managed to bring in $35 million total. And it apparently did not slow Wes Anderson down at all, because he continued to churn out more and more.
Doesn't totally surprise me, because it's so completely idiosyncratic and unusual and offbeat.
Sure.
That it's not going to connect with everyone.
Well, they got $20 from me when I bought the DVD. So,
Nice.
So the film is shot following basically this legendary documentary crew.
Based off Jacques Cousteau.
Yes, exactly. Of this oceanographer / general explorer personality, basically, at like Jacques Cousteau.
And he's kind of, at the beginning of the film, he's kind of washed up a little bit. He's like, everyone's asking him, like, what happened? Why aren't your films good anymore?
Yeah, this is like a post middle age adventurer played by Bill Murray.
And he's kind of a bitter asshole a little bit.
he's definitely a bitter asshole. His name is Steve Zissou.
Steve Zissou.
And they travel around and make documentaries, but they haven't made a hit. As we already said, he hasn't made a hit documentary in years and years and years. And the film opens up at this documentary like film festival, basically.
The premiere of his new film.
His new film, exactly. Titled "The Jaguar Shark." And in the film, basically they come across this unknown shark. In the documentary, they come across this unknown, never before seen shark that murders his lifetime like adventure partner and best friend Esteban Duplantier, who we will never see again in the film for the rest of it. But it's the shark eats him, and basically it sets about in motion the whole film from there. His original part one of the Jaguar Shark does extremely poorly. Pretty much.
People even saying it's like fake looking, and yeah, it looked
yeah.
in typical kind of Wes Anderson fashion. That is kind of the goofiness of it. Is
Yeah.
everything looks like it's, even the movie itself is kind of like shittily like, I don't know, not shittily made, it's actually masterfully made.
It is, and
But it's all it doesn't take itself seriously ever.
I think it also just captures like the awkwardness humanity has, like the propensity towards, not like the Office awkwardness, just like cringe or whatever, but just kind of like, stumbling over societal situations or societal interactions. But so Esteban has been eaten. He does a Q&A afterwards. It doesn't go very well. You get introduced to this one character who is unnamed at this point, played by Owen Wilson, who is wearing an aviation uniform, who asks a question like, what's next for Team Zissou? And then one final question where a lady asks, basically, I'm getting close to it, but they ask him what he's going to do when they find the shark, and he announces that he plans to kill it for revenge, maybe with dynamite.
Maybe with dynamite. That's awesome.
It is awesome.
That's what you should do if something kills your friend.
Yeah, take something that you love away from you, you blow it up with dynamite.
So that's his whole mission.
Even if it is an endangered species that's never been seen before.
Yes. Have you seen any of the old Jacques Cousteau movies that they're kind of like, this is an homage to?
Not since I was old enough to understand or appreciate.
One night, they was on TV and I watched it for hours, but they wear the fucking little Team Zissou hats.
Oh yeah.
They all have that. The uniform's based directly off Jacques Cousteau.
Yeah, and they have matching uniforms. Who did the costume design for this?
I can't remember her name, but it was the same person who did Clockwork Orange and super famous costume. Everyone who worked on this is super famous and like the best of their field, basically.
Yeah.
Or they're an intern.
So after that, the film really begins at this point. You're introduced to Jeff Goldblum's character, Captain Hennessy.
I love Jeff Goldblum, and we have to do The Fly at some point.
Oh, it's coming up.
The Fly's coming.
But you're introduced to his basically rival / nemesis, who's also an oceanographer, but is just like dashing and very popular and very in right now, and he hogs up all the grant money.
He takes like white sweaters and ties them around his neck, and
yes, he's very debonair in his stylings.
And he's also just a pompous asshole, just like Bill Murray. Like that's pretty much why they don't get along.
One of them's clearly riding the success train right now versus Captain Zissou, who's in financial straits, which is basically admitted there after a little bit with Captain Hennessy. You're introduced to Captain Zissou's wife, played by Angelica Houston.
Yep.
She is very cold as a person.
Cold and unloving.
Cold and unloving.
Exactly kind of what you'd expect a wife to be.
She is the brains of Team Zissou. Is very obvious in all of their interactions. She approaches everything from a very thought out perspective and is intelligent and well read, and also extremely wealthy. So much so that her parents financed some of Zissou's bigger failures in terms of his productions. You're introduced to Osiri Draculius, who's basically the producer / production company of these films. And he's like currently trying to rustle up some money so they can actually make part 2 of the Jaguar Shark. And at this point, said guy in aviation garb, Owen Wilson, comes and introduces himself as Ned Plimpton, tries to get Zissou's attention. There's some other... I mean, we're going to have to glaze over a bunch of details here because there's just too much going on.
Owen Wilson really kind of plays against type in this movie.
He does.
Normally he's like the fun, lovable guy, and this one he's very straight-laced, serious, mild-mannered.
Square, even.
Yeah. At some point during this scene, this little kid comes up.
Oh, yeah.
And he's got holding a bag of water, and inside is a seahorse. And the seahorse is super cool looking, and it's like kind of just one of the quirky things about this film.
It's stop motion, right?
Stop motion.
Yeah, I think pretty much all the animals except for the larger ones were done by a stop motion.
Yes, except the dog.
The sea life, I guess, other than I think just the dolphins. The dolphins are the albino scouts.
Right. We'll get to that.
But yeah, we're putting the cart before the horse. But so Ned Plimpton introduces himself. Zissou kind of blows him off. He says, my mother was Catherine Plimpton. And that kind of makes,
Steve pause a minute.
Yeah, he turns on his heels. He goes, smokes a fat bone after they kind of talk, and it's revealed that Ned might be his son. His adult son, who he has been absent from this entire existence of Mr. Ned. So he goes and smokes a bone up at the bow of the ship. Is that what we decided it was?
I'm not.
Yeah, it's one of our boat buddies. Will have to fill us in.
Well,
Send us an email.
When you say take the helm, it means drive it. Yes, and he was at the front. Is the wheel at the front or the back?
No, it's neither.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, never mind.
Yeah.
Don't know.
I think it's the bow. Boat people, if you want to let us know, send us an email.
What's the front of the boat called?
Yeah, what's the front of the boat called? FarOutFlixPodcast@gmail.com.
I'm not Googling anymore.
Yeah,
we have the listeners.
We have the listeners. You guys Google for us. But he smokes a fat doink, and after he's nice and stoned, goes back and, kind of chats up Ned a little bit more. He's a little bit more...
He's a little bit excited about it. He's
a little more friendly.
Yep.
He basically takes Ned to his wife and says, hey, explains the situation, or we kind of like jump into him finishing up explaining the situation. and he wants to, basically bring him out to the island, their private research island.
So cool.
Which, something I like about, well, gosh, it's in pretty much all of Wes Anderson's films, but like all the main characters or families that they follow are just like exuberantly wealthy. Even if they're down on their luck, they're just insanely wealthy.
And they're always crazily dysfunctional.
Yes, always. But they agree, and Ned gets brought out as part of, he gets brought out to the island to see, he gets to spend time with his dad or possible dad and get to know each other.
And then around this time we get introduced to the crew of the ship. So Willem Dafoe, love Willem Dafoe, one of my favorite actors easily. We already talked about him a lot on The Lighthouse, but
but we could go on and on about
he
Willem
plays
Dafoe.
a German guy named Klaus.
a senior member of his expedition team.
And what was his role on the boat? He's just kind of a goon. He's like
a second in command sort of thing.
Yeah. And he's kind of an asshole to Ned.
He's a huge asshole as well.
Because, he's kind of... Later on, he tells Bill Murray, like, I always felt like you were like a father to me. So there's like a little bit of competition between...
Well, he actually says, I always thought of you and Esteban as my two dads. After Bill told him we thought of you as a little brother.
Yeah, it's awkward.
A little awkward. But
Willem Dafoe's so good.
He's so good. But Willem Dafoe, there's a number of other crew members who are lesser known actors, not necessarily household names.
There's a bunch of interns on the boat.
From the University of Alaska.
Yep. And they were actually, some of them were Wes Anderson's real life interns.
Including one who was one of the co-writers, Noah Baumbach's intern number one, kind of the main intern, who was also a co-writer for this film, and had to have his hair permed 3 times throughout the production of this film to have his on-screen perm. I'm going to not get too derailed, though. Again, there's a lot of fun trivia here.
It's too much.
Too much. And that's not what you guys are here for. You're here for us. Maybe. Who knows? So the interns, they got frogmen. They've got a script girl who's always topless.
They have always topless.
And the script girl.
They have a sound guy.
Yeah.
Who was actually the real sound guy for the real Life Aquatic film.
You were kidding me. Really?
No, yeah.
Sweet. That's awesome. God, so much trivia.
Yeah, I mean, and every detail of this movie is thought out intensely. And at some point they show a cross-section of the ship. And this is actually a set they built that's 4 stories tall. It's 50 feet tall, 150 feet long. And it has all the rooms of the ship. So when they actually film the scenes, I guess they have a camera on a crane or something, and they'll be shooting in one room, and then Bill Murray will climb a ladder, and it'll just pan up to the next room. It's awesome. Yeah, it's really cool how they did it.
It is a very cool scene, and introduced another important fixture of the film, the Belafonte.
Yes, the Belafonte.
Which is the vessel in which they have done all their adventuring over the years. In the film, they say they bought it from the U.S. government it's a World War II ship. And that's close to being true, but it was not a U.S. ship. It's escaping me now.
South Africa,
and it was a minesweeper.
Pretty badass.
Just pretty badass. And then also the aforementioned dolphins, the albino scouts, but they don't really count. There's not.
So at the bottom of the ship, there's it's all full of water, and they have albino dolphins with cameras attached to them or something. Mm-hmm. And apparently they're the scouts or something.
And Bill Murray hates those dolphins.
Every time they come up, he's just like, the fucking dolphins.
Yeah.
Which is weird. You just gotta watch it. The movie's charming.
It is very, very charming. We can't undersell the charm. So on the island, basically, Ned gets a call on a speaker box, and it's like, come down to the beach and run down there. There's these crazy glowing jellyfish
Yep.
all over the beach.
That part's cool.
It is. And, they're filming, and Ned's kind of in the shot. He's holding a boom upside down because he has no fucking clue what he's doing. And he ad-libs the line. And, Bill Murray he likes the way that it sounded and the way that it went. So he then basically is like, hey, come get in the shot with me, and asks him to join Team Zissou.
Yep.
To which, Ned eventually accepts.
So the son joins the team, the estranged son. And also...
Well, at this point, the final really main character is introduced.
Yep.
From off camera, somebody calls out and points out that it's not jellyfish, it's actually a type of man-o-war. And then Zissou looks at it closer and he's like, shit, she's right. And the camera pans, and it is a very pregnant Cate Blanchett, who is a reporter who's been sent out to basically travel with them and write a report for, I think it's the publication in story is the National Oceanographer, I believe is the name of it.
Nice.
But she's out there, to which we glossed over, but Zissou was briefly made aware of it, but just like us, he forgot to do anything about it, and she actually had to pay a fisherman to drive her out to the island because nobody picked her up when she was supposed to get picked up.
God, I know this is skipping ahead, but one of the best scenes of the movie is when he's like, she's interviewing him for the story, and at one point he's like, and what's he say? He's
Well,
like,
she asks him, what, in your opinion, what do you think went wrong? Very open-ended.
starts it off.
That was his first question, and then she asks him another one. It's like, I'm gonna fuck it up trying to get it right, but another very pointed question at him, and I think she said, he asks her what her thoughts were of the Jaguar Shark Part 1. She said she thought aspects of it seemed fake.
Right. And then he was like, oh, does Esteban dying look fake? And then he pulls...
He says, does this look fake? And he pulls his Glock out.
Yes!
He fucking racks around and pulls his Glock out and points it at her, like sitting across from each other at the table.
God, it's
Which
so
isn't funny. That's ridiculous firearm negligence, but...
And here's the kicker.
It's just so bizarre.
Here's the kicker. It was not in the script. Bill Murray just fucking did that on the fly. And Wes Anderson loved it so much, he was like, oh, why didn't I think of that?
Well, I mean, it's Bill Murray.
It's
you
Bill
can't
Murray.
beat yourself up too bad.
Not everyone can be a genius like Bill Murray.
So, Cate Blanchett's character has been introduced.
She's got a real stick up her butt.
She does. She did idolize Steve Zissou as a child.
But when she meets him, she just despises him.
and pretty much from the get-go, Ned has some attraction to her character. Like, he, after this scene, hears her, she's reading to her unborn baby, and he kind of, stumbles past her room and, asks if he can sit in and listen for a little while. She asks him some, questions about Steve being his dad or whatever, but from the get-go, there's a little...
Sure. And also, Bill Murray, he's like, hey, I kind of got a thing for her. She's mine type deal.
Calling dibs, which,
you can't, first of all, you can't call dibs on a human being.
No.
Second of all, he's, old enough to be her dad, so...
Correct.
Which, that's some stiff competition against Owen Wilson, who is... her age.
who
and much more handsome than Bill Murray in general.
Actually, the script girl's name was Anne-Marie. That just came to me.
Yep, Anne-Marie.
Anne-Marie Sackwood, actually, the full name. And Cate Blanchett's character's name is Jane.
Jane.
Which we didn't say.
And she's based off Jane Goodall.
And she wears a very similar outfit throughout almost all of the film, but with a little baby bump. So, Ned's brought into the team now. He mentions that he's not a particularly strong swimmer. There's little training montage. You get to see, their full garb. They all carry Glocks with little thigh holsters.
They're essentially wearing blue pajamas, red beanies with holstered Glocks on their hip.
So they
and Adidas.
The Adidas. A note about that. When
They have official. He opens a box. He's like, "Yeah, we got all these official Team Zissou Adidas."
yeah, and when the movie came out, you could actually purchase those Adidas from the Life Aquatic website. Fun fact.
Which is amazing.
Yep, and this film came out in 2004. So I think I saw the shoes in like 2006. So it was up for a few years after the release, minimum. Probably had to clear the stock out. But they, Steve tries to give Ned a Glock, and he like tries to turn it down. He's like, "Oh, everybody gets one." And he's like, "Anne Marie, do the interns get Glocks?" And she's like, "No, they all have to share one."
And then he's just like, just take it.
Just take it.
They all share.
But
they're shitting on the interns throughout the whole movie.
The whole film, which is funny. But Ned mentions he's a shitty swimmer, and they like during this training montage, he tries to do like little scuba training drill, and it just cuts to him, having CPR performed on him. He drowned. He's not a good swimmer. He's an airman. That's his thing.
Yep.
He's a man of the air. He's a pilot, which. I don't think we expressly said, but he was wearing aviation gear. He's a pilot.
Yeah, he's
out of Air, Kentucky.
Yep.
And he's got a southern accent through all of this.
Indeed, which was apparently inspired by another actor who's from South Carolina's accent.
Which one?
Will Patton.
Oh, okay.
Indeed.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yep.
All right, well, that's a good little fact.
Right.
God, there's so freaking much.
There's too, and I mean, the attention to detail that Wes Anderson puts in his films, it's almost on a Kubrick level.
It is.
The little symbolisms and things. Maybe not quite. Maybe that analogy is too much, but there's a lot of little factoids we could give you. We're not going to overwhelm you.
I feel like we've already maybe done it.
Yeah, whatever. Anyway, we can get to the story of the movie. And
So Eleanor, Zissou's wife, after this, basically has some pretty serious doubts about going on the voyage, and she kind of voices them to Bill, especially about bringing this man that may or may not be his son along, and he's kind of like dismissive of it, and he says something that rubs her wrong, and she decides that she is out. And so at that point, they lose the brains and really kind of like the emergency financial
the
backing.
real captain.
Yeah, the real captain, not the personality, but
not Bill Murray, who's apparently just stoned and just does things on a whim.
drinks Camparis nonstop. But she departs, and so they kind of like break out on their voyage. After she leaves, they find out that the funding's fallen through for the production. At which point Ned offers the inheritance he just got from his mother, who passed away, $250,000, which is, I guess, like enough a deposit to secure the rest of the funding for the film, and they get back on the water under the condition that they bring a Bond company stooge with them to keep track of everybody.
The nerdiest looking guy ever. There's a few conditions. Also, they're like,
piss
and
test.
when you find a piss test, and when you find the jaguar shark, whatever you do, don't kill it. He's like, fine, don't kill it. We won't kill it.
I'll fight it, but I'll let it live.
I'll fight it, but I'll let it live.
Where's my dynamite?
Where's my dynamite? Oh.
So they get back out on the water, and they start hunting
and the
for it.
adventure begins.
So
the hunt for the jaguar shark.
He'd managed to hit the jaguar shark with a honing dart when Esteban had been eaten. So they're trying to track that signal. So it's not just some blind search through the ocean, which is ridiculous. There's at least like something they're chasing.
Sure, and you made a point. The whole thing is it's a similar plot structure to Moby Dick.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's kind of a madman who's on a insane mission to get revenge on this fish.
This giant fish. And it's like, yeah, pretty much tit for tat. Like, but they start out on the adventure. Some more like character development, blah, 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 blah,
blah, blah, blah. Then they go to Jeff Goldblum's lab.
Yeah, so they go there.
So he has like a research lab out in the middle of the ocean.
We're going to go to a colleague's research lab.
They hate each other. So he leads all the crew there, and then when they go...
Ooh, important detail. Captain Hennessy was married to Eleanor as well. Prior to Steve.
That is which could explain another facet of their rivalry.
Yes, they're rivals on multiple levels.
So when they arrive at this research station, he's like, all right, guys, we're going to go in. The first thing that happens is he tries to open the door and the alarm goes off.
He's like, shit, they wired it.
And he's like, gather up any fancy equipment you could see. And like one of the interns is like, are we stealing this stuff? He's like, no, we're just borrowing it. We'll give it back. Yeah. Then they're like, they show him stealing a cappuccino machine.
It's another cool sectional scene. Like they got the sectional, like the spiral staircase going down to this like sea level.
It's badass
research station. But yeah, they steal the cappuccino machine. Bunch of other shit.
It's a pretty funny scene.
It is
for sure.
So at this point, Zisu's kind of decided he's got a little bit of a crush on Jane and starts to kind of make moves towards her, which are again not like reciprocated back at all. And again, there's this and again there's a little bit of a flame between her and Ned to make this love triangle a real thing. So you kind of have like two love triangles involving Steve. You've got the Captain Hennessy, Eleanor, Zissou, Steve Zissou love triangle. Then you've got the Steve, Jane, and Ned. But the feelings are not there from her at all.
No.
He even breaks in and basically finds the two of them like
in bed together.
Well, we're getting ahead.
It doesn't matter.
Well, anyways,
he's like, you're not allowed to be in each other's cabins.
Dude, after he breaks in, he breaks into her cabin. Actually, where we're at in the movie.
Right, she goes to her cabin and he's just in there, right?
Mm.
With like I think the light might have even been off, and he's holding a crowbar. She's like, how did you get in?
But then he says he kicked it in. So it's like, why was the crowbar there? Who knows?
To look intimidating.
But they make this decision, or rather, Steve makes the decision to take a shortcut through international waters, unprotected international waters.
Against Anne-Marie, the topless girl's advice.
The script girl, always topless.
Always topless.
There might be like
don't
one
know why,
scene, but
she's got nice boobs, though.
She does have great boobs.
She's like, no, don't do that. If I had boobs
like that, I would flaunt them as well.
He's like, look, the way you're trying to get us to go is 4 inches on this map.
We go this way, it's 1.5 inches. To like save fuel. And she's very vocally against it. So while they're doing this trek, he's relaxing in the ship's sauna, which is a pretty sweet sauna, actually.
Yes.
Allegedly designed by the Chinese space program. But he's in the sauna, and basically there's some like pounding on the door, and it's Klaus, and he's like, Steve, please open up. They've been boarded by Filipino pirates. Yep. So he gets taken into a room like where Ned and Jane are, and he gets handcuffed to like a sink drain, and he's kind of being a dick about all of it. And one of the pirates comes in and beats Ned over the head with like the handle of a machete. Yeah. And drags him out, and that's like you really see this kind of emotional, violent reaction from Ned. He says, I'm going to hit you so hard you're going to go fucking blind. But he gets brought up on deck. And
he's going to be their hostage.
Yeah,
they're kidnapping him.
Yeah, they're kidnapping Ned. But he gets brought up on deck, and the whole crew is basically held at gunpoint and blindfolded. And Ned's in their little vessel that the pirates have boarded with. And basically, as he's like getting put down, or not put down, not like killed or anything, but positioned where he's supposed to rest or sit quiet.
Right.
He just feels this moment of courage, manages to like get his hands free and take his blindfold off and punch a bad guy and get his gun and start shooting more bad guys. It's just a fucking one-man rampage.
Hell yeah.
Dude, this guy, he's going off. No fear of death whatsoever. To Steve's credit, he's kind of like a sad fuck overall.
Right.
But here he is a true action hero.
Yeah, he kicks ass.
He fucking kills several of the pirates.
He's the hero of the story for sure.
He shoots this one pirate who, he had the intern number one, again, co-writer of the film, who's got this crazy perm on his knees. He shoots him, and in dying, he drops the machete down and machetes the intern's shoulder. Which would be really painful. It's not funny at all.
Yes,
but it's an intern, so it's a little funny.
Yeah, sure.
Before this had happened, the Bond stooge had been selected as the new hostage, and they'd put Ned back on the boat.
He was randomly fluent in Tagalog, which is the Filipino language.
I did not know that.
That's all I know about it.
Oh, so can you speak some?
Nope, not
a lick?
Nope, not a lick. I've been there, but I don't remember any of their language, so what can you do?
So he manages to drive off the pirates, but not before there's pretty significant damage to the vessel, and obviously some of the crew was not pleased with his decision making, as it led to them being boarded by pirates.
Sure, makes sense.
Namely Anne-Marie, and all the interns, except for intern number one, who stays. But there's a little bit of a, not mutiny moment, but he draws a line, and he's like, if you want off the ship,
now's your chance.
Yeah. So Anne-Marie leaves, as does 4 of the 5 interns. Intern number 1, the permed beauty, he sticks around. So they, at this time, Captain Hennessy has been notified that his sea lab has been broken into. He's real upset about it. Tells one of his crew members to go load his elephant gun with buckshot, which is just absurd. But you would shoot a human with that. But
Jeff Goldblum.
Jeff Goldblum's character. But he basically comes upon them after they've been kind of fucked by these pirates, and agrees to tow them back to shore, but for X amount of money, which is more money than they even have left. The pirates also escaped with all of Ned Plimpton's cash money.
Right.
Little detail that we should mention is Steve wanted to call Ned Kingsley if he'd had any choice in naming him. So on his business stock that he ordered from him, he put Kingsley and in parentheses Ned Zissou, which is just such an egotistical, absurd thing. But he's just this larger than life character. He shapes everyone around him.
Yep.
So they get towed to shore after Zissou signs agreeing to pay the tow fee. And it just so happens to be where Eleanor has been hanging out in Captain Hennessy's private villa.
Whore.
with this very Fabio-esque research assistant or whatever. We'll get to that in a second. So Steve goes to beg her for money to pay off
Begging the ex-wife for money.
Yep. She tells him no, but brings him in, and they have a very kind of brief dialogue, and she kind of insinuates they're talking about Ned. And she's like, don't you think we should have ever had kids or whatever? And he's like, oh, when you and I started, our thing, you were already old. And she was like, hardly, I was 34.
Right. Hinting
something. Keep that in the back of your noodle, listeners. Yep. Come back to that. So he leaves kind of dejected. They get back on the boat. It's talking about selling it for scrap. Basically, Steve catches Ned and Jane fucking spooning together at night. He breaks. This is when he breaks back into her cabin.
Yep.
And he and Ned have a little spat. Ned's like, "Why didn't you ever contact me?" And he basically says he just fucking didn't want to be a dad. Didn't want to have anything to do with him.
Because he hates dads.
Because he hates dads.
It's like, I hate dads, and I never wanted to be one.
Ned punches him in the face, and it's one of my favorite parts of the movie. Steve's like, you don't do it like that. You just smile and act natural, and then sucker punch him when they least expect it.
Which would be probably how Bill Murray would do it in real life, I would imagine.
So, and then he proceeds to sucker punch Ned. But it's in this moment that Eleanor shows up and demands somebody pay for the water taxi. And she has now agreed to be part of this again. And I guess bankrolled enough to maybe try and rescue the Bond stooge.
Nice.
So, using her brilliance and examining all the facts, she's basically narrowed down where the pirates would be.
Yes.
In the Ping Islands.
Right.
At Hotel Citron.
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
And that's where they go.
Yeah.
And this is kind of one of the big climactic scenes of the film. Like, the action really gets cooking here. And basically, they sneak up into the island. They're sneaking around.
Like lightning storm.
Yeah.
If I can come in hot.
And they can't find them. But then Bill Murray just kind of stumbles into a room, and they're all playing cards.
And he finds, they find the Bond stooge.
Yep.
They're about to leave. Bill eats shit down the stairs. And, he makes the comment like, keep filming. We'll give the people the reality this time. It's sad, washed up.
Old man.
Yeah. Basically.
That's what we're doing. We're giving you the reality on this podcast.
Yeah.
We're not old men,
No.
but we're not washed up
young.
yet either.
We're young and strapping.
We're young
Prime of our lives.
Hard.
Hard and hot. And steamy. And oiled. Whoa. But Steve and Ned have like a conversation, and it's kind of like a reconciliation moment from their fight earlier. And he tells Ned in an earlier scene, Ned had wanted to call Steve Dad, and he was like, how about you call me Stevesy instead? Again, because of his issue with fathers.
Right.
But he says, I've been thinking about how about Papa Steve. So that they basically kind of reconcile their differences, and it's like, oh wow, here's like a little connection.
A heartwarming moment. And I mean, that's I'd say the major themes of the film. First, obviously, revenge against the jaguar shark.
Of course.
And second, it is kind of like a father-son thing.
It is, absolutely.
An awkward father-son reunion.
Sure, 100%.
Which is actually a major theme of a lot of Wes Anderson's films.
Yeah.
Particularly Royal Tenenbaums comes to mind.
It just makes you wonder, did his father not love him enough? I'm sure he and his father have a great relationship. But there's definitely like a fraternal paternal thing. And while not like true Oedipus, the fact that there is like a love interest between them adds another layer of complexity.
Yes.
But so they're about to kind of leave with their Bond stooge, and Bill Murray realizes he can't find the dog. The dog, by the way, the pirates left on the vessel. It's a three
Yeah, they had a three-legged dog named Cody.
But he's looking
Who becomes a major character, kind of.
A little bit.
I mean, he has a name. Not even the interns don't have names.
No, they're just intern 1 through 5 in the credits even. So he's looking for Cody, and he basically stumbles into a room, and it's all the pirates with Jeff Goldblum with Captain Hennessy. But they also, I mean, tiny detail now that we know Captain Hennessy's here, but they show like a little graveyard that the pirates have made with all of Captain Hennessy's crews, and they all have their little matching uniform hats on all the crosses. Man. But so Captain Hennessy's in there, and he's like, Steven, are you here to rescue me? And Bill Murray just kind of like,
oh god,
shrugs. So when he realizes he might be getting rescued, he folds, and the fucking pirates just shoot him in the fucking shoulder. But again, Steve jumps to action, charges into gunfire, pistol blazing.
Guns blazing.
And then next thing you know, he's running out of the building. Well, let's see, Klaus and Owen Wilson. So Klaus and Ned went into the building as well with dynamite, and then we see the four of them leave and the hotel blow up.
The whole scene is just really over the top.
Extremely over the top. But
They
like
weren't
also
going
goofy
for
because they
realism.
go into that rotary door. So
Yeah.
it's like they gotta like push it all slow, like. But
It's fun.
It is fun. But they blow up one of the fishing boats so the pirates can't chase them. They get on another boat. They find the safe, which
Yep.
they open up to find a hole cut out of the back and all the cash already taken
Yeah,
out.
all the money's gone.
And they drive off.
And as they're leaving the dock or whatever,
Yeah.
one of the crew members is like, "Oh, it's Cody!
We forgot Cody."
We forgot Cody." You see the three-legged dog on the
It's Steve. Steve's like, we forgot Cody. We gotta turn around, and like everybody there is just like,
and then he's just like, "Oh, what is he
so
say?
long, Cody.
So long, Cody." He gives up the dog so easily, way more easily than any person would ever give up their dog.
But it's also not really his dog.
True.
He's only had it for a little while now.
That's a good point. It's interesting. It's not really his. I won't spoil it, even though we're basically there.
Oh, we're pretty much there. So back on the vessel now. It's like there's like a sense of victory. Like everybody's kind of in high spirits. Captain Hennessy notices a lot of his equipment has been stolen.
Finds his cappuccino maker and
It's like, how do you have my cappuccino maker? This Bob dude is just like, we fucking stole it, man.
yeah, that guy kind of becomes
He's cool from the get-go because they're like, you're not going to bust our balls, are you? And he's like, I may be a Bond stooge, but I'm a human too.
he might be my favorite character.
Dude, he's solid.
He's solid.
But like the atmosphere has changed. There's like a sense of like success and victory there. And like Steve's like a whole new person. He's like being friendly, talks with Angelica Houston's character, Eleanor, very like kind of like in a more kind way than you see through the rest of the film. He and Captain Hennessy actually like get along. They have a moment and they're like, we make bad husbands, the two of us. And Captain Hennessy is like, but I have an excuse, I'm part gay. And through a lot of the film, like Bill Murray uses some perhaps very dated language that
Right.
would not be included in a film in referring to Captain Hennessy. And like in this time he goes, well, they say all of us are part gay. And they like embrace, and it's like they're actually like
That's the Tinder moment.
yeah. They've the wall of like hatred and rivalry has been broken down between the two of them, and it's like Steve is like kind of maybe becoming good again. The jaded fucking cloud of failure is dissipating away, and
Pretty much.
So at this point, he and Ned are going to take the helicopter
Yes.
and go to shore to try and get help or something.
I think that they pinpoint. Don't they find the jaguar shark on the radar, and that's what they're going to check out?
That's exactly what it is. You're 100%
All right,
right.
start over. We'll just edit that out.
We'll cut it out. So at this point, Steve and Ned are about to take up the ship's helicopter. This is a huge ship again. So they had a little tiny 2-person helicopter that's part of the equipment there.
Which actually is like a copy. It's an exact copy of what Jacques Cousteau actually had. Everything on the ship is like an exact copy of what he actually had.
Everything on the ship's also run down.
Yes.
And has perhaps not been maintained. Like power flicks off all the time. But so they're about to take it up, and right before then, Ned had taken it upon himself to like redesign the Zissou crest.
Oh yeah, that part's heartfelt.
It is. So they basically changed it from just the Z as it had been to a little bit more ornate, and there's like 4 corners to it. There's different aquatic animals with different letters. So like there's an S or a Z for Zissou.
Yep.
There's an E for Esteban, and then there's a K for Klaus
Next to the dolphins.
and that like it just meant so much to Klaus And he and Ned had some like tense moments earlier. In fact, Klaus slapped him, and then like Ned punched him later or something, slapped him back. But like Klaus was like deeply moved that he was included as like part of the crest, and like runs out before they take off in the helicopter. And the amount of emotion that like Willem Dafoe is able to convey, just like with his facial expressions and his limited lines.
Oh yeah,
just like how much that meant to him. You know, because he just says, "You don't understand. I really liked it."
He's so good.
He's so fucking good. So they take the whirlybird up. They're flying around.
Well, yeah, at a certain point, Klaus is like, "I've got it on the radar. I found the jaguar shark. It's just on the other side of this mountain in the trench or whatever."
And they see the fluorescent snapper, which was like a school of fish that had been seen the first time they saw the jaguar shark.
Yep. They're up in the helicopter.
And then at that moment,
shit starts breaking.
Yeah, you hear tink, or you hear it like an engine sputter, and then a little tink, and
they go down.
Things go bad hard. Quick. Yeah, and a little detail that I fucking love about this, you know, for Steve, who's been the opposite of paternal throughout all of this, when the plane starts to drop, he throws his arm across Ned. Which, like, I've been in the car with my mom before, and, like, you know, she thought we were going to wreck or whatever, and she does it. And it's just like, don't do that. You're just going to break your arm on the airbag.
You know? That is true.
Yeah. You know, but it's the thought, right? It's like the paternal instinct to protect and care that, like, now manifests itself here in this exact moment. But they
oddly, in that scene, though, Ned does call him Steve Z.
Does he call him Steve Z? Well,
he uses the nickname he didn't want to use.
So the helicopter plummets down.
This scene's really cool looking, very artistic. It's awesome.
Sure. So they hit the water, and you know, it's a bunch of like flashing images.
Ned can't swim well. It's already been established.
Yeah, we already talked about that. He's not a strong swimmer, but you know, Steve, he's a man of the water. But he emerges and he's calling out for Ned, and he sees Ned holding on to the life, like a life raft nearby, and he swims up and he's like trying to check on him, and the camera's kind of positioned like at sea level, so the waves are like washing over it, and as they wash over more and more, like
blood,
it becomes blood red as opposed to the color of the water, as Ned's starting to make less and less sense and kind of starts to fade out, and basically it cuts to Steve having swum ashore with Ned's body, and you know, carries him out and sets him on the ground. He's dead. He's got blood, just his pants are blood red stained. Something from the impact had penetrated or cut him really bad.
Sure. He's fucked up.
Yeah. So it cuts back to the ship. He's been rescued. They do a burial at sea for Ned, which there's something kind of beautiful and kind of like, it's still like a quirk or a little twist, but it's, you know, he's a man of the sky who passed away and was laid to rest at sea. But they do the burial, and Eleanor cries, and Zissou makes the comment that he'd only ever seen her cry one other time, and it's when her arm got caught in a deck winch, which would like definitely break bones. Like that's crunching bones.
Absolutely. Oh fuck.
But you know, he's obviously super torn up about this. Pretty much everybody's on the boat. Every character we've named so far who hasn't been killed is on the boat. Eleanor reveals that Steve is impotent, or at least per her opinion.
Right. So it turns out Ned probably was not his son.
Very possibly was not his son. More than likely was not his son. It's tough to say for sure, but and that's like something else kind of beautiful that, like, you know, even though it's not real, it's like those two men were able to develop like a connection.
True.
That's like ended up being deeply meaningful for both of them.
Well, one of them needed a father and one needed a son.
Exactly. At that like perfect time, but it's picked up on the radar then that the
Yep.
the jaguar sharks beneath them.
They all pile into the little submarine. Of course,
Way too many people for that submarine.
if you've ever seen a National Geographic, you know what these little research submarines that go into the trenches look like. I would
Little
love
Lego kits. They make Lego kits
Dude.
of them, or they used to too.
Yes,
You remember that?
super cool.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was a little kid, I wanted to be a marine biologist, and I'd always
Well, I wanted to be an astronaut, an archaeologist, and
I wanted to be a lot of things.
I did too, and here we are podcasting.
Yep. And it's still a dream of mine to go down in one of those little research submarines and to like the Twilight Zone and all that.
It'd be pretty sweet, except you're just surrounded by death, which is what drove me away from being an astronaut. So everybody piles in, and they go down. They go down to the ocean, and pretty much all the like aquatic life again that we see in this, other than the two fucking albino dolphins,
All stop motion.
all stop motion, super.
So they're like
quirky,
little clay. They look like they're made out of clay or something.
but
and
beautifully done.
Actually, it's all done by the same guy who did Nightmare on Nightmare Before Christmas,
Oh, okay.
who's like one of the most famous
Stop motion
directors
artist.
ever.
Yeah.
And yeah, super cool looking. Also, they don't look real. They're not going for realism. They're just going for like there's something really special and cool about them. I don't know.
Yeah. So they go down tracing like the beacon. They get to the ocean floor, and they've hooked a big tuna to the back of it as like bait to try and lure it out. But then there it appears out of the
They
depths.
finally see it.
This beautiful giant shark,
glowing spots.
yeah, like leopard spot or whatever, some big cat like pattern.
Also stop motion, and also one of the largest stop motion puppets ever created.
That's fucking badass. I didn't know that.
Because normally in most stop motion things, to save time and be efficient, you're using little miniature models.
Mm-hmm.
And for this, they wanted it to truly feel large compared to the actors.
Yeah.
The thing was like 9 feet long.
No shit.
And in order to make it look realistic, they filmed the whole thing upside down. So the gravity on the actual puppet kind of mimics the buoyancy they would have in the water.
Ah.
Yeah,
That's super cool.
pretty cool, pretty interesting. I mean, dude, I think the stop motion stuff, I love that art form and that medium, and I'm also just blown away by the patience of these people to actually
That's too much for me.
make this stuff.
But back to the shark. The shark appears out of the depth, and it is glorious. I mean, it's truly beautiful. I want to make a specific call out. The whole soundtrack's so fucking great, but the music right here when the jaguar shark comes out is Starlfer by Sigur Rós, the Icelandic kind of like ambient ethereal band, which is this beautiful ethereal song. It's perfect in my opinion for that scene.
It's good.
Every time I watch this movie,
Beautiful.
and I mean this, every time I watch it, that scene, I get chills like up and down my body, hair stands on edge.
It's a great scene.
It's a very powerful scene because in this moment, you know, whether it's because he's blown away by the beauty of the animal, or perhaps he's realized that the path for revenge was, you know, never ever going to be worth it or fulfilling anyways. He elects not to choose it. That and he ran out of dynamite, but which he makes a point of saying.
Yeah.
But he decides not to kill it, and it's just this. Like, it's all come full circle. Like, what he set out to do has been accomplished. And it's just a very emotional scene. And, like, you know, Bill doesn't fully cry, but you see, like, the expression of a man on the verge of crying. And he does it so perfectly. I fucking love that scene. I think it's just
awesome.
It is. It as I said, it gives me chills every time I see it.
Great climax.
So the next scene is basically the documentary's end being displayed at the same place part one was. It basically pans to the whole crew, and in the center where Steve's supposed to be sitting, the chair is empty. The documentary ends. It's received with a standing ovation. The crowd loses it, and he's just outside looking at all the paparazzi on the steps, you know, reflecting whatever. I mean, I can't imagine what that kind of moment's like.
Yeah, he's a hero.
But it doesn't. But none of it matters, right? Like,
Right.
even though he's totally succeeded and rejuvenated his career and made a hit documentary, possibly the most dramatic documentary ever made, you know, in this fictitious world.
Yep.
You know, part of him is still gonna hurt a little bit because
Well, it doesn't-
the
that's-
part of the journey. You know, he lost his son, his best
Yeah,
friend.
that won't fulfill his void of personal relationships.
No, but at the same time, he kind of comes out of this like a healed person, right? And the film ends with the entire crew marching triumphantly back to the vessel, and that's how the film ends.
Badass.
It's so fucking badass. Not the like most mind-bending film, not far out in that regard, but like the art style and cinematography and just like
It's unconventional. in
unconventional stuff. Yeah,
almost every way.
I really fucking love this movie, and if you, for whatever reason, haven't seen it and listened to us talk about it for like an hour and almost 10 minutes or whatever, good for you. Thank you for your time, but you should definitely go watch this ASAP.
And check out Wes Anderson's other films. I mean, Wes Anderson.
We probably won't do another Wes Anderson film. That's my 2 cents on it.
Yeah, that's the most far out one
It is, and
that I'm aware of.
I love Wes Anderson, but I don't want to.
Sure.
There's too many other films to put in to fall
Well,
back.
this one's pretty mainstream. Like most people, we like doing. We want to help expose some people to movies that they might not have seen as well.
But we also want to balance stuff that you've
It's
probably
balance.
already seen. It's all about
balance.
balance. It's all about
We're
balance.
balancing. But Wes Anderson, I follow him on Instagram since recently, and all he posts is like architectural photos, and that is, he's just an interesting guy, and I do kind of almost feel like. Maybe this is a little bit too strong, but he almost like invented a new genre. He at least created his own universe which has its own logic.
And yeah, for sure. And it's very everything his is distinctly his. You know, like you can about take like a still shot of anything from any one of his films. It's like, oh, that's Wes Anderson.
Exactly.
I like that a lot of his films are not a lot, but certainly this one is kind of like a genre mashup. You know, it's light, dry comedy. It's adventure,
love,
drama. You know, the film was very critically mixed when it came out, and
people just didn't even know what to make of it.
yeah, and it's received better reevaluations since then. But I from day one just absolutely love this movie, and I'm just so psyched we got to do it.
It like burned itself into my psyche.
Again, I
Like
watched
from
it.
the first viewing, like you'll never lose that mental image of the aesthetic of this film.
Sure. I couldn't agree more. I mean, I was like a little bit obsessed for a while, but we're gonna stop jerking the movie off because we're done. We did it. It's done. Yay!
Yay!
We had a recommendation, something that we're going to be doing moving forwards, dear listeners. In order to help you best prepare for our next episode, we're going to preview what we're doing next week at the end of the episode.
We'll decide a week in advance.
And we've already done it. Next week's selection is Cronenberg's Videodrome.
Nice. We haven't done any David Cronenberg yet, have we?
No.
So he's one of the most far out. He's
Absolutely. And this film has literally been in the forefront of my mind since we started doing the podcast as like a must do.
and it's interesting because I've seen a lot of. Well, we'll talk about this next.
Yeah, let's save it for next time. Anyways, guys, as always, like, subscribe, comment, download, tell a friend, tell your mom.
If you want to do some small thing to support the podcast, just rate it and leave a comment.
We'd love
because it's free. We don't get paid.
Nope.
Hopefully one day, maybe, but honestly, I don't even care. I'm just drinking.
Yeah, I'm out
whatever.
$15 on the beer right now, so
per week. And what episode is this? 13. So
13.
do that math. And if you want to send us a check, you can send it to P.O. Box 3051. No, I'm just kidding.
That'd be $195 so far spent on beer, assuming $15 a week. I had to do that math. Maybe I did it wrong. Let us know. You can let us know in the comment.
All right, guys.
That's it for this week.
See you next time at Far Out Flicks.